So today's story time is going to be about none other than Ramsay Bolton, specifically his childhood and the environment in which he was raised. Ramsay is the illegitimate son of Lord Roose of House Bolton, and he is, without saying anything that I don't think the app will approve of, the way he was conceived was non-consensual, shall we say. His mother was the wife of a miller, and they married without Roose Bolton's approval. And he basically doesn't take too kindly to this. He takes it as an insult. He kills the man and he takes the wife. He does something that is known as like the first night rite, which used to be a thing, but it's been outlawed for like 200 years, where a lord would have the right to take a bride on her wedding night. Like, that was their right. But that's been outlawed for 200 years. But Roose Bolton is like, look, we're from the north. This is what we do up here. But he's very careful to keep it under wraps. He doesn't want word getting back to the Starks, who are his liege lords. He doesn't want to get in trouble for this. Book 5, A Dance with Dragons. It's one of Theon Greyjoy / Reek's chapters. And Roose says that he took the woman, he claimed his rights beneath the tree where her husband was swaying. If truth be told, the wench was hardly worth the rope. He describes it as a dismal day. And then a year later, the same wench had the impudence to turn up at the Dreadfort with what Roose describes as a squalling, red-faced monster that she claimed was my own get. I should have had the mother whipped and thrown her child down a well, but the babe did have my eyes. So Ramsay Bolton was conceived as a product of violence, and he was born into a society where he was not cherished. He was looked at as like, he was a problem. The mother goes to Roose and asks for help to raise Ramsay because she's on her own. And what had happened is, when her brother-in-law had seen the child's eyes, he was like, yeah, those are Roose Bolton's eyes. And he thought that she'd stepped out of her marriage with Roose Bolton. He didn't understand what had really happened. And he basically kicked her out of the mill. And Roose finds out and he retaliates. He takes the mill back, gives it to the woman, and that is where she's going to raise Ramsay, and he has the brother-in-law's tongue cut out. And he basically doesn't want any word of Ramsay's conception getting back to the Starks. So if we think about a young Ramsay Bolton, that's the environment he's growing up in. He's not loved. He's a dirty little secret, really. Now, Roose Bolton does send provisions. He says here, piglets and chickens and a bag of stars, on the understanding that she was never to tell the boy who had fathered him. A peaceful land, a quiet people. That has always been my rule. And that is very apt for Roose Bolton. He doesn't want any drama. He wants to be able to get away with anything without there being any consequences. He doesn't want anybody challenging him. And the fact that he sired this child on a woman and the way that it happened, that could get him in some serious trouble. What he wants is for the woman to not cause a fuss and to just go away and be seen and not heard. But that's not what happened. She turns up and she says, this is your child. And it's kind of embarrassing for Roose Bolton. And so he's like, right, if I just send her away, then I can just send her some stuff every now and then, you know, she'll stay away and I won't have to deal with this problem, because he's already married and he's got a true-born son of his own, Domeric. I did a video the other day about him and what happened to him. So Roose had his perfect family. He didn't want Ramsay. Ramsay was a complication. So he sends the original Reek. Theon was not the first Reek, there was another one. And he sends Reek to basically help out Ramsay's mother. And he blames them for the way Ramsay is. He's like, the mother got in Ramsay's ear. Reek did. It's because of those two that Ramsay is the way he is. He never says it's because I wasn't a father to him. Roose Bolton never takes any responsibility for how Ramsay is. And he never shows any warmth or affection. Aside from the, he's got my eyes. That's about it. The problem is, Ramsay is told, yeah, Roose Bolton's your dad. And Roose does not like that. He doesn't like being defied. He said, don't tell him. And Ramsay found out, whether it was Reek, whether it was the mother. Ramsay knows, and now it's a bigger headache for Roose. And that's how he seems to look at Ramsay, as just a complication, a headache, a problem, because I stress He had his son and heir in Domeric. He didn't need Ramsay. And then Ramsay kind of starts popping up and coming around, and he introduces himself to his half brother. And Roose is like, no, you don't want anything to do with him. He warns Domeric off Ramsay, like, steer clear. And then all of a sudden Domeric dies, and Roose says it's because of Ramsay. Ramsay killed him. And it stems from jealousy, because Roose talks about Domeric in warm, glowing terms, and he does not talk about Ramsay that way. The only reason I think Roose Bolton even acknowledges Ramsay and even entertains him is because he doesn't have his legitimate son and heir any longer. So Ramsay will have to do for now. But there's no love there. There's no fatherly affection. He's not actually concerned about the welfare of his offspring. This is the environment Ramsay is growing up in, and I think he's fully aware, and it's a massive chip on Ramsay's shoulder. He's desperate to prove himself to his father. He wants his father's attention. He wants his father's blessing. He wants to be welcomed into the fold. But his status as a bastard and the way he was conceived, that's a PR problem for Roose Bolton that he doesn't really want to deal with. So there's always a distance between father and son. Roose never really bonds with Ramsay. And the irony is that makes Ramsay try even harder to seek out Roose's approval. But the more he does things, it's the way Ramsay goes about things. He's so extreme that is actually detrimental to his relationship with his father. Roose doesn't want Ramsay doing all of these things and getting this reputation because it's not smart, and Roose doesn't want to deal with it. I mean, a peaceful land, a quiet people, that has always been my rule. Having someone like Ramsay causing the kind of problems he is, Roose doesn't want the drama. I think Ramsay thought by getting rid of his half-brother, the legitimate son, that would make a space for him in Roose's life, and he would now have a proper father figure. And that doesn't happen. I think this is why Ramsay turns out the way he does. He didn't get a fair shake in life, because imagine growing up under those circumstances. It had to be difficult, but Ramsay had a decision to make, and he chose to go to the dark side. He chose to embrace the infamy, and that's on him. But as regards to his childhood, I think it is fair to say that Ramsay got the short end of the stick. He was conceived through violence, and he was raised in an atmosphere of not being wanted, and that's basically the beginning of the Ramsay that we know. It all kind of seems to come back to this.